So I'm Simon. I'm the guy with the English accent. Ian is the guy with the Connecticut accent, is it?
There it is.
Connecticut accent. Okay, so we're just going to spend the next 30 minutes walking through how Datto has implemented the Twilio 2FA API. It's a company that was acquired a couple of years ago, originally called Authy. And it's just going to be a Q&A. I'm just going to go through and walk through a bunch of questions from Ian. But before we do that, and actually, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Twilio, and Ian's the VP of Product Management. You were the co-founder with your brother, if that's correct. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah,
Right.
My older brother started the company just about 10 years ago.
Okay, so before we go into 2FA and how this all worked, we had a very interesting conversation last week. So explain to me what $24,000 means and how it's relevant to what we're going to teach some of the people in the room today.
Yeah, so at the end of 2015, a really big event happened with Datto, and we became the very first unicorn in Connecticut. And what was really kind of fun about it is when...
Unicorn company, valued at $1 billion. You didn't
There you
turn
go.
into
Yeah.
a physical
Well,
unicorn.
I figure everyone from the valley here,
Sure.
so, unicorns are a dime a dozen around here. But so one of the fun conversations that I had with my brother, because we always talked about when we started the company and about what tools to build and what tools to buy. And it was around kind of, okay, could we build it, and how much time would that take? And so when we got this valuation, we actually backtracked his time, and it came out to $24,000 for every hour that he worked at Datto. So when you think about, and the crazy thing is that we built an ERP system, we built our own, content management system, we built so many things, and we've now replaced them with tools. But it was funny when we actually got the value of it to go, oh my gosh, can you imagine how much money we wasted building tools that we probably should have bought?
And you could have been investing in your business product as opposed to just re-implementing something else that existed, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to let me just pause this quickly.
Backup is becoming...
So I just want to show you a quick couple of minutes video. Ian and his company were really nice enough to let us to go in with a camera and just help you understand the use case that we've solved with our API. So let me just play this.
A security. Backup is becoming a security product. Traditionally, it's thought of as just redundant sets of data, but now that it has more functionality and it's a full offline set of your data, it really becomes a security product.
We asked our partners what was the biggest request that they had. If we could build one thing, what would they request? Two-factor authentication beat everything out by a huge factor, like absolutely massive.
Datto is a business continuity and disaster recovery company that specializes in both hardware and managed services. Our goal is to really make sure that your business stays up and running.
We restore from disasters constantly, and even our conference rooms are named after disasters. The most important thing when it comes to security of disasters is that the person who is helping is actually the right person to help. Authy has helped us allow the right people to get into the portal to do the restores.
Two-factor is a must nowadays. We were using it internally for our engineering teams that had to access our servers directly. This was a big thing for our partners to be able to sell more. They need to be able to say that their vendors support two-factor.
From our side internally, being able to maintain a 2FA service as easily as we do with Authy is definitely helpful for us. When I log into the partner portal, I log in with my Datto username and password. If I click One Touch, the page will automatically know that I've approved the One Touch notification, and then just like that, I'm logged in.
Being able to be charged by authentication means we're being charged by actually what matters. I would definitely recommend another company to use Authy. The biggest thing is just making sure that they're protecting their customers, whoever their customers are.
As a security company, you have to set the standard and you have to absolutely believe in security if you're selling security. Authy's 2FA has helped the security needs of our customers by giving them full two-factor authentication that doesn't interrupt their daily workflow.
All right, that gives you a little bit of a summary of kind of the things that we're going to be talking about. So just give me some background as to the services that your company has built and provides.
Yeah, so we started in the data backup side of the world, and we moved into business continuity, which is essentially being able to protect systems as opposed to just data, and being able to virtualize those systems should a disaster occur. And then just recently, at the start of this year, we moved into the networking space. And so we're doing access points, switches, routers, 4G failover routing, actually. And then finally, we do SaaS protection as more and more data goes into the cloud in cloud SaaS apps. We're actually backing up the cloud SaaS apps to the Datto cloud.
And what was the initiative? What started the company? What was the seed idea that grew to what you are?
Well, in the name Datto, it's the data and ditto put together. And the idea is that we built this network-attached storage that was automatically replicated to our cloud. And it was kind of like the birth of our hybrid cloud vision. And we tailored it to the backup side of the world as our first real application. And that's how the company kind of got started and got moving.
And so you say you've migrated now further into things like looking at the network, routers, and the traffic going through the network. Where are you taking this?
I mean, the idea is just to stop business downtime, and it's for small, medium-sized businesses. When you think about enterprises and even mid-market companies, they typically have the resources to go down for some period of time, or they'll have insurance that be able to help them. Small, medium-sized businesses can't be down at all. They really have a very low tolerance. They rarely have enough money to make it to payroll the very next month, and so they need to be in business. They need their business to continue to run, and they really have no tolerance for that downtime. And when we were on the data backup side of the house, we were realizing that there were other pieces in their IT infrastructure that was failing them. And so what we're doing is we're going out there and providing a product that gives continuity in their entire IT infrastructure stack.
Right. And so when you're talking about down, you're talking about access to the data and access to the network to get the data.
Yeah.
So central to your solution then is the fact that you're storing all these data sets for each of your customers.
Yep.
Right. So I just want to kind of walk through understanding why security is specifically important to your type of business. And as I see it, you've got kind of four types of user accessing your data in that platform. You've got the MSPs, so the managed service providers that you're selling to.
Those are our resellers.
They're your resellers who are selling on to their customers, who then have users, and then you've got your own administrators. And all these are 4 layers of access into your platform.
Yeah.
Help me understand why security is important to these layers and to the business in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you an example of like a very typical customer for Datto. At the user level, let's say it's a lawyer. At the customer level, that's the law firm. The managed service provider is the outsourced IT provider because most small law firms don't have an internal IT department. They rather go with a company that does outsourced IT. And then the administrators would be the Datto employees. And when you think about what is on a backup or business continuity appliance, it's the entire set of their data. So if they were to go into the server room, they wouldn't steal the server, they'd steal the backup appliance because the backup appliance has all of the servers and workstations. And also, when you saw the video with disasters on our conference rooms, one of the biggest disasters that we run into is ransomware. And we should have a conference room that's named after WannaCry because ransomware essentially takes whatever production data and makes that unusable. And so the backup appliance is actually the thing that keeps their businesses running because they're able to take a snapshot that wasn't infected and go back and roll back to that snapshot.
And so timeliness is important. So you're describing here how there's a security layer for these people accessing their important data. And if that ability to access isn't available, that's an issue.
They can't get up and running, right? And the idea is that we're limiting or trying to eliminate all of the downtime that a business suffers from. So whenever they get the call that they call their IT provider, say I can't get access to my data, that IT provider now needs to be authenticated to get the access to their data and then re-enable the user by either virtualizing it or bringing the data back, doing like a restore type scenario.
So would it be fair to say that the people who are coming in to recover are never just lazily walking through the door? Everybody's on fire that's typically coming in to try and recover. And if they can't log in, if their authentication system isn't working well, it's the immediate frustration because they can't get through the front door to satisfy, recovering their data, recovering their network, whatever.
Right. I mean, their customer is essentially in the worst state they possibly could be in.
Right.
And we have to balance it because we want to make sure that we're making a secure transaction there, but we're also making it as fast as possible.
Okay, so as we heard in the video, two-factor authentication is a way for you to provide better security coming into that, but obviously a lot of two-factor authentication methods are adding an extra level of complexity to the login process. So as you were looking at 2FA, where were the challenges in increasing the security of access to your system, but without causing the guy's hair on fire to burn further as he's trying to get in?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's exactly that. We wanted something that could fit into our technology stack, and we wanted something that wouldn't disrupt our product roadmap, because we have a whole bunch of features and things that we want to add to our product that aren't related to authentication. And so we needed something that we could drop in as if we were to build it, but it also needed to have the features and functionality to keep the security and keep the speed into logging in. Because before we had this, we didn't have any two-factor authentication. So we didn't want to make the user go from one experience of I just log in to then it's, that much more difficult for them. We wanted something that was like one transaction like they had before.
And because a lot of people in the room are this is a developer conference, describe your stack in a bit more detail. I mean, you can see from the screen using PHP and OAuth, but just give me an idea of how you go from that initial login and how you're trying to integrate 2FA into that process.
Yeah, I mean, literally almost everything that we've built has been off PHP, which is not necessarily suggested, but it's how we ended up in our situation, and it's something that we stuck to and we continue to develop on. And then we adopted OAuth across our platform, and as we continue to acquire companies and acquire products, we want to continue to use that same stack. We actually look at companies that are using PHP at their products, because we don't want to necessarily support a ton of different languages across our stack.
Right, and so when you're looking at 2FA, the third icon up here is the Google Authenticator.
Yep.
Give me an idea of how you looked at that and realized that was a challenge.
Well, the thing with the Google Authenticator is it didn't really offer any support throughout the process, and it sort of seemed like something that we didn't really want to go down that road. We wanted to go with something that was a more off-the-shelf solution.
Right. Okay. So Google Authenticator was forcing you to build a bit more of the functionality into your product. Right. Okay. So the API from Twilio that you looked at and had selected is a two-factor authentication, but as a cloud API. So why? There are many products you could have implemented to create the 2FA. You could have built it yourself. What was the attraction of using an API in the cloud as opposed to taking an on-prem product or installing some library locally on the environment?
Well, we're already a cloud company, so it's like the trust in the cloud. You have to eat your own dog food on that one, and you can't say that I don't trust the cloud, yet I'm selling the cloud to everybody that is my customer. And it was actually interesting with our experience. Our internal team actually deployed this first. And they were the first ones to pick out and go through the selection process. And
when you say internal, what were your
Datto employees?
So the administrators accessing the platform itself, right?
Yeah. So we actually did it for our entire cloud engineering team and our infrastructure engineering team, and then we rolled it out employee-wide for anyone who can access the data on Datto devices. And when we went to our partner conference just last year, we ran this whole UX study of, what is that one thing that our product doesn't have that it needs to have? And overwhelmingly, two-factor authentication was brought up, because they're saying, as an IT administrator, our resellers, if we're trying to sell this product as being secure and that anybody could just grab an admin login, and steal an admin login and then be able to get into all of my customers' data across all of their devices, how is that, how are you actually backing that up as a secure product? You needed to have this 2 years ago. And so when we got back from the conference, as a product team, we were upset. We were like, how did we miss this? And then how can we remedy this? And that's where we said, hey, our internal deployment's gone phenomenal with Authy. Why don't we roll this out at the customer level?
Right. And so we see here our time scale. So give me an idea of, in your position as the PM, you're making the decision to move forward. You've got an engineering team that are building this stuff out. What was the process to get there? And the fact you didn't deploy it internally, was it had you built a library, you just copied the library over? What was the complexities of getting from that decision at the partner conference, we want 2FA, to actually having that in production?
I mean, we evaluated the cost. We looked at the different vendors, the different options, and then essentially we thought this was the fastest way to getting to representing this technology. And we already had engineers that deployed this, and they already got support throughout the process. They had all the tools that they needed, and so it was just something that we felt we could bring right in, and that's what we did.
When you talk about support, what do you mean by that?
So being able to reach out to Authy throughout the buying process when we're actually integrating into the stack.
All right, you mean actually talking to us, kind of getting, and from the actual product itself, documentation, things like that, what sort of feedback did you get from engineers? That
it was all good. I mean, that essentially they never hit a roadblock that that was something they couldn't, couldn't get past, and it was something that they could integrate, and we didn't have to have an entire team, and we didn't have to hire anyone who has a specialty in authentication,
Right.
on our team.
And how long have you had this running now and offered to customers?
Just about 10 months.
How many times have you come back and made any changes to the implementation?
None.
Right.
Although with some of the recent features, we're looking to further integrate those.
Right, okay, cool. All right, so that kind of just tells a little bit of a story of how you got to that point, why you want to implement 2FA, and how you got into production. I just want to give you an idea and show you what they've done and how it works. And then after that, we're going to go a little bit into more of the advice that Ian would give to other people who are looking to do this. So this is Datto's website here. I have, on the screen, we have both my browser to do the login, and then on the right-hand side, I've got my phone connected to the device, running our Authy application, which is a client-side application that allows you to authenticate using 2FA. Let me just open that guy up. So I'm just going to log in here. This is the front door to your portal, the back-end portal.
Yep.
Is this the authentication flow for one of the MSPs?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
This is one of our resellers.
So I should have, now let's get my password. Oops. All right, so in two-factor authentication, my first factor is obviously something as simple as username and password. I'm going to use that. You'll notice on the right-hand side, my phone is going to get a notification. And the notification is also using Twilio's notify service, pushing a push notification down to the software. And here I have what we call a push-based authentication mechanism. So my phone has received the notification. That's directed me to the application, and when I open the application, it's asking me, somebody's logging into a particular account, is this you? So a lot of 2FA methods you might be familiar with leverage things like maybe SMS or something of that nature. This API supports those mechanisms, but the best user experience and the most secure user experience is through this type of authentication. And what's happening here is there is a secure connection from the application to our API, and our API in turn understands the login session from the customer's application, and Datto portal in this example. And so as an end user, I have a very, very simple decision to make. Do I approve or deny this login that's about to happen? And my response to the phone will call back to our API, and our API then talks to Datto to say, hey, that login request you made, we've securely communicated to the trusted device the user has, and he's responded with a yes or a no, or she. But if I just hit approve here, you'll see that chain of events happen. My approval on the phone, there's a connection back to our API, and then there's a call back to Datto, and it's hands off. So from an end user's experience, that's pretty nice. Kind of all I'm doing is I'm logging in, my phone beeps, I say yes, and I'm in. Now, if I was in a scenario where I'm in a coffee shop, for example, having breakfast, and I get the same type of notification, and I'm clearly not trying to access my Datto portal or my bank or whatever application's being secured, the end user then has the ability to deny as well. So I can say, no, that's not me, and that callback comes back to the application, and the actual person trying to get in would be denied access. And that's a very nice experience when you compare it to things like SMS, where you might be in the cafe, you might get an SMS saying, here's your 2FA code, and most end users will look at it and think, now what? What do I do? Why am I getting this? Well, someone's trying to log in. How do I stop this? Who do I call? And it's a dead end from a user experience. So doing something like this, where you're presenting them with a really clear UI, is extremely helpful to be able to inform the right decision and also give them control over denying people access when it's not authorized. But obviously, this type of technology requires a smartphone. It requires things like internet access. So SMS is still very, very useful in falling back to different mechanisms to complete the authentication. So let's look at a fallback model here. So let me log out of the portal again. And I'm going to put my phone in airplane mode. So there's no connectivity. There's no SMS. There's no Wi-Fi connectivity to this at all. And I'm going to re-log in. And again, my username. And if my password's still in the... my password again. So this time to my phone, there's going to be no notification. There's one to my desktop there. That's not my phone. So my phone's dumb. It has no access to the internet. And the end user now, so what do I do? And this is a very common scenario. I don't know how many of you fly around the United States, but Wi-Fi is becoming more and more popular on flights. Now, when I'm on a plane and I want to access the Wi-Fi, I'm quite happy to pay the $10 for my laptop so I can access my email and my portals. But I don't want to spend another $10 just to connect my phone, just to authenticate. So in those types of scenarios where I have a network-connected laptop or desktop, yet my trusted device, the smartphone, has no network connectivity, you can either fall back to SMS, and that wouldn't work on a plane, but that is an option. And you can see here in their UI, they have the ability to request that same type of authentication via SMS, or you can see on the screen, I'm actually generating what's called a TOTP, or a time-based one-time password, which I can just type in. And so the phone is essentially generating the same type of code you would get via SMS, and it's just doing it itself without having to have any connectivity back to our API. And it's doing that because there's a shared secret on the phone, and it's using time. And you can see the timer ticking around here, and it's generating tokens based on that secret and the time. And then the back end, the server's doing the same thing to come up with the same number to say, you've given me the same number that I've generated, therefore you must have the trusted device generating that token. So that's just a very quick and simple demonstration of two of the types of 2FA that we have. Again, there's SMS and other mechanisms that are available. So let's go back to look at this. So we've told the story. We understand a bit about your business, how you got here, why you did 2FA. We've had a look about how you implemented it. But the crux of this conference is help people who are in the position as a developer, writing code, thinking about, I need to secure my applications. What advice would you give them? What's the experience for them? What are the decisions they want to be making around this whole thing?
I mean, it comes down to time management. And if you're a developer and you're at a company that doesn't have product management, that means you're the product manager as the developer. And so time management is extremely important because the owner of the company, whether that's you or not, is expecting that you're working on things that will generate revenue. And for us, authentication wasn't generating revenue. It was just a threat for us to lose revenue. And so when we decided to go with the tool that we bought, we wanted to make it something that would minimize the developer time. And that we didn't want to make a trade-off where there are free tools that can do things very similar, but it would still take developer time, and that's what we didn't want to. That's what we didn't want to spend. So we wanted something with a great API. We wanted something with a support process that we could actually be able to interact with, and we wanted to be able to bring it out, with the phased approach. And the language support was really helpful for us too.
Language support?
Yeah, being able to support PHP and all of the.
I see.
Yeah.
You talk about programmatic languages.
Yeah,
right, I guess.
Of course.
Okay, and so the one-touch implementation. Tell me about that. What was useful in that? Like the feedback loop you get if people deny and accept, and the data you get with it.
Yeah, I mean, you just get so much more information there as opposed to SMS, where you just can't really sniff as much information out of it.
Are you making decisions? So another advantage of having the smartphone response, where you can approve and deny authentication decisions, is the package that we send from the API to the application contains a lot of data about the device that was being used. Are you guys using that in any way? Are you making any intelligent decisions on it?
Not yet, but that's something that we want to do, because obviously we're thinking about us being a much bigger target in the future for someone to try to steal data from it and from our customers. And as we become just a larger company, that's something that we have to be concerned with. So we need to have additional routes and additional avenues to take to keep us secure, and then to have us grow, because we're not buying two-factor authentication as it's just going to be two-factor authentication forever. We're buying a product that has a roadmap beyond two-factor authentication, because if our developers built two-factor authentication, they would then quickly move on to building other things that generate revenue, and our two-factor authentication would get stale or would not have the features and functionality that are required a year from now.
Right. And so in closing then, just kind of give me some context through soon. But you mentioned sooner. So you got to a unicorn valuation, $1 billion, and you look back, it was $24,000 an hour for your initial development time. So I mean, how important is it to kind of do these things as early as possible?
Yeah, I mean, because I guess we got lucky, and that we didn't go through a scandal of having someone break into our to our partners' data or to customers' data, and then that could have been thrown in our face. And so I would have done it sooner if I knew how easy it possibly was. If I could tell myself 2 years ago, say, hey, you should invest in this now. And I'm glad that we invested it when we did, and I'm glad that we didn't run into a disaster that really could have cost us our entire business. And then the other message is, when you're looking at the time management and you're looking at things that generate revenue, if it's not going to generate revenue, it rarely makes sense for you to build it. And we've built every tool under the sun, and I can't tell you how much we want to go back and not spend time building internal tools, essentially, or tools that aren't part of our revenue generation or aren't part of our intellectual property that we would sell. We would never sell our two-factor authentication to anyone else. That's just not, we would build it for this specific use case and then never use it again. And that's not what our engineers are paid to do.
Right, and finally, when you did implement this for your end users and your customers, what sort of feedback did you get from, if there was great demand at that partner conference and you delivered it later on, how was that feedback received?
Well, they thought we had already built it, or they thought that it was already on the roadmap, because we delivered it 90 days after our partner conference, which is unbelievably fast for any type of feature request. Right. So they just assumed that we had already had it on our roadmap, and we took credit for that. But yeah, no, they were extremely excited, and they were happy that we listened to them and delivered a feature that they needed, that was required of them, and I didn't have to trade my roadmap space for that feature and functionality.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Ian. I appreciate that. And that's a very short presentation. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.